In the 21st century, there exists an unfathomable amount of wealth created and accumulated with the widest gap in wealth distribution in recorded history of humankind on this planet. Trillions of dollars supposedly aren't accounted for, to say the least. Some people believe, and some would like all of us to think, that this is just the way it is, and no system is perfect. Yet, it is blatantly obvious that the system which currently dominates is capitalism. And that system is primarily focused on markets, with commodities and services that over time have been and are creating vast amounts of capital, profits, and wealth. Now, in reality, capitalism was initially created and its productivity and the profit margins significantly increased through the imperialistic genocide and enslavement of millions of people. And perhaps by this time in the 21st century, we could say this number is now in the billions of people. It isn't based on a free market, and it's certainly heavily manipulated by human hands, regardless of what one believes about an invisible hand, or individualism and entrepreneurship, or even more so, personal and cultural, fiscal and moral responsibility, which is only an assumed quality of behavior when people talk about a so-called success story in the global marketplace. It proves to be a system that obviously isn't so compassionate, democratic, or otherwise moral throughout its entire history. By the way, capitalism hasn't existed and dominated for 300 years yet. And every 80 years or so in those last 250, there's been a major crisis of one kind or another. As recent as 2008, UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher said in the 1980s, there is no alternative, essentially saying there is no successful alternative to capitalism. It is capitalism yesterday, capitalism today, and capitalism forever. However, when studying history, and specifically economic history, as economist Richard Wolff has said,
most people agree that in the decades before the collapse of the Soviet Union, you had a powerful central government with an elaborate secret police, with an elaborate system of controlling the population. Most Americans thought it was a dictatorship of one kind or another. They were tough, they could control the opposition. Yeah, and then they couldn't. Then despite all of their apparatus and all their secret police, the existing regime fell apart. The Soviet Union came to an end. I understand that there are powerful forces in the capitalist sector, in the government, that would want to stop this. But the fact that they have a lot of resources and the fact that they want to stop it is no more a guarantee that they'll be able to do that than it proved to be for the people who ran the Soviet Union. So I think we ought to take our hats off for a minute and understand every economic system in the history of the world has been born, has developed, and then has passed away. Capitalism was born in England in the 18th century, 17th century, has spread all over the world, changed in the process. It's now everywhere, but the question is it now passing away? The notion that capitalism, unlike any other system, will live forever and not pass away, I think the burden of that, proof of that, is on the people who believe it, not those of us who find it unbelievable.
No one can predict exact details, but clearly the capitalist system is failing, and some believe that we are quickly approaching a time of post-capitalism and the creation of the next system. Now, why would more and more people come to this conclusion? There are many factors to consider in analyzing the many crises that we are facing on this Earth planet.